On October 4th, 2021, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp went down for several hours. The consequence? Pornhub saw an increase of 10.5% in traffic. So let's put that into perspective. For every hour that Facebook's services were down, Pornhub added around 500,000 more users per hour. No social network or streaming service can come even close to that.
130 million users a day, which, by the way, is reportedly more than Netflix or Amazon.
With reportedly over 3 billion monthly users.
And there's no other way around it. The world loves porn. It's everywhere. And yes, Pornhub is the world's biggest brand. Pornhub is, of course, an adult streaming website. I don't even have to explain that to you. But there's a lot about the famous site that you might not know. Our initial question was simple. With so much free content out there, how the hell do these guys make money?
Rape, revenge, even child porn, all in an effort to drive up revenue. A criminal enterprise.
Hundreds of thousands of victims with video of their sexual assault and abuse being shared and circulated widely.
What we found led us through this very dark, I want to say fascinating, but honestly just dark path. The pornographic industry dominates society. 30 to 35% of all downloaded content, all streamed content, all the content, the traffic on the web relates to porn. Right now, at this very second, 29,000 people are watching adult content. Every single day, 68 million searches in Google relate to pornography. So Pornhub has taken advantage of this global addiction. The website ranks in the top 10 companies with the most social impact, year in and year out. Behind Facebook and Google lies Pornhub. But of course, if you've ever visited the site, you know that there is a lot of free content. One would think that there's no need for a subscription. It's just logical. Paying for porn makes no sense. And at the same time, we just can't help but wonder how such a giant company finances itself. And that's where MindGeek comes in. You see, Pornhub is only one of many companies under this giant umbrella that is MindGeek. If you've never heard the name, you're not the only one. I hadn't heard the name. But go to the website and you'll see a company that works on content delivery and on advertising. And that is true. But MindGeek focuses, of course, on pornographic content. Now, is that bad? I mean, it shouldn't be in theory for now, but it is. It is. You'll see. After YouTube came into our lives, it was only a matter of time before someone came up with an X-rated tube site. But of course, it wasn't one. Many sites appeared back then. Sites like RedTube and YouPorn were free for the most part and relied on ads for income. For every click, they got some change, and it wasn't a lot per click, but so many people were watching that they ended up making a decent living. And the numbers only increased year on year. You see, before these sites, buying pornography was a straightforward business. People bought the videos and watched them. And that was it, right? The only other way to make money was creating galleries that led users to pay sites. But tube sites changed everything here, and people wanted in, and that's where Matt Keiser comes in. If that sounds like a porn name, it does, but it's not. That is his real name. Anyway, he created InterHub, which was a tube content company, and one of the brands under it was Pornhub. But this wasn't Keiser's first venture into the pornographic content. With that name, you just can't help it, right? That's where his other two buddies come in. Stefan Manos and Ossiam Youssef had worked in those early galleries as far back as 2003. And back then, they noticed how profitable specific niche markets were. So after having many galleries, they ended up creating their own website, which was called Brazzers, to produce content. This, of course, would become one of the biggest production companies in the world. So by 2007, it made perfect sense for Keiser to create a tube site like Pornhub. But the three didn't stop there. They created other sites as well. And between them, they were on their way to an empire. So the company grew enough to become an exciting bid for Fabian Tillman, who's another porn connoisseur. Tillman had created a tracking software that allowed companies to track advertising links and clicks. So this way, businesses could then charge commissions over these clicks and links. And here's open about how he got into porn. He was a geek, and he rarely got out, but he's also very secretive. There is actually very little information on him, but one thing was very clear. He loved porn. In fact, he spent his earnings from the software to buy several internet companies that fit under this umbrella. So after purchasing several European sites, Interhub caught his attention, and he bought it as well. While to this day, there is no definitive evidence on the amount, rumor was it that this was a $140 million acquisition. So now he had Interhub, including Pornhub, Brazzers, and many others. He named his porn imperium ManWin, and he made sure that it was a reputable company. So Tillman wanted a reputable porn emporium, so he even created safe sex campaigns. He also bought 22,000 DVDs from small companies to license them through Product Hunt as well. And it seemed that the company was going to be legit. Tillman even made huge efforts to produce anti-piracy fingerprinting. And his actions had some pretty immediate results. ManWin increased earnings by 40% in less than a year, with Pornhub responsible for most of that growth. And after that, there was no stopping the company, even owning the rights to Playboy digital brands. But then, in 2013, Tillman announced that he was selling his shares of the porn empire that he had created.
88 billion video views. So I can guarantee you everyone watches it.
ManWin executives would buy him out. And in his farewell letter, he thanked his employees, and he called it one of the hardest decisions in the lives of both his wife and himself. That's right, he was married, somehow. Interestingly though, Tillman has said that he's never set foot on a porn set. Still, that doesn't take it away from the fact that he was the owner of this porn empire. Anyway, he sold his shares and the company changed its name to MindGeek. Though finding out who owns the company today is pretty hard, and there are two prominent names there. Faraz Antoon and David Cassillo are the most notable figures in this acquisition, and they were relentless. They took what Tillman had created and just ran away with it. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the story. I just wanted to thank the sponsor for today's video, which is Verus Finance. They're a lending and borrowing platform built on the Waves blockchain. So Verus allows you to loan out your long-term crypto investments in coins like Bitcoin or Ethereum, or even stable coins like USDT or USDC. Compared to other platforms like Binance, Verus offers potentially better returns. They allow you to make some additional money from your stablecoins investment by loaning it out to others so that they can utilize it and they can pay you back with interest. Now, you can also use the Verus platform to borrow Bitcoin or Ethereum or stablecoins like USDT or USDC. And those are just two of the many ways that you can use Verus Finance. If you want to learn more about what they can do, you want to head to the link in the description. Massive disclaimer, please keep in mind that I am not a financial advisor. Slidebean is not a financial advisory company, so please do your own research or consult with a financial professional before investing in crypto. From 2013 onwards, Pornhub became the biggest porn site in the world. The company has made massive efforts to understand data to achieve this goal. In fact, their algorithms are the stuff of legend, and so are their yearly reviews. The site received 42 billion visits in 2019. That's about 115 million visits per day. Pornhub has so much content that in 2019, it added up to 170 years of content.
This is key. The company still does not confirm the consent of everyone who appears in the videos.
But back to the original question, how the heck do they make money? How did they become so huge? So, do you remember Tillman's efforts to make this company grow? Well, it wasn't only him. And back then, Tillman relied a lot on investors. 125 individuals and companies dished out $360+ million in debt to help the pornographic expansion. These include JP Morgan, Fortress Investment Group, and, get this, Cornell University. By the way, Cornell University dropped out of the investment in 2016. Get this, when the media questioned them, they said that they didn't know, they had no idea MindGeek did porn. They believed that MindGeek was only an online media distribution company. Fool me once, I guess. This leads to understanding that investors were fueling the growth. But what about sustainability? That's where this gets very interesting. Now, the company is private. We don't know what their actual numbers are. But what we know is that for 2021, they're estimated to make about $460 million in revenue. And get this, most of that revenue comes from ads and from subscriptions. Someone is willing to pay for something that's already available with ease. Yes, subscriptions remove ads and remove pop-ups and offer more content, I suppose, but still, I guess it's always been like that. Those that were willing to pay for porn back in the 2000s, I suppose, are willing to pay for porn now, and apparently will continue to do so. But then there's how big just this company, this empire is MindGeek, hence Pornhub, is a monopoly. All the companies combined consume more bandwidth than Twitter and Amazon or even Facebook. Actually, this is so massive that the company has copyright issues with its own companies. Producers create videos that end up in MindGeek's free sites, thus lowering the returns for MindGeek. So it's this kind of vampire system. At the same time, the company has so much content available that it has driven down income for itself and for their artists. So to counter this, the company has launched communities and has launched these creator channels, and members can tip specific stars that they like. Think of it as their own adoption of the OnlyFans system. But these are all minor problems compared to the company's true dark side.
Like take off my clothes and show my body, doing sexual things.
Eventually ending up on dozens of porn sites.
I didn't say anything to anyone. I blamed myself because I'm like, what did you expect?
I will always be someone's porn.
We said that there were approximately 170 years of content, and it's impossible to keep track of all that content. So in that vast ocean of perversion, there's some really dark stuff. You have rapes and bestiality and even murder. As Pornhub grew in popularity, it tried to moderate the content, but in reality, the company just didn't care much about moderation. Take the example of Girls Dupont, which was this production company. This was a verified channel on Pornhub. That means that moderators actually confirmed that everyone in those videos had agreed to appear on them. In reality, this channel had tricked women into having sex on camera. In addition, the producers lied about where the video would end up. They also didn't pay the promised amount, and they even forced women into acts that they hadn't agreed upon. Former employees testified that the company relied on lies, but Pornhub only really acted after 22 women sued the production company. And then, after years of working with them, Pornhub deleted the channel and removed the content. The problem was that this solution just didn't work. MindGeek is so massive that this content still exists on some websites under the company's umbrella. The situation only highlighted the challenge Pornhub faced with moderation. There is so much porn that it's impossible to see it all. Now, even more so, after Pornhub introduced the community channels, regular people just upload their videos by the thousands with hopes of getting followers and getting some tips. So in theory, moderators have to watch each one of those videos. And let me be clear, the company does have moderators, just it's impossible to get enough. In 2020, former MindGeek moderators revealed that it was just impossible to keep up. They had to watch 1,200 videos per day and catch anything from underage sex to bestiality to death. But MindGeek had given them a remarkably lax rulebook. Since it was so big, the company even allowed for content forbidden in one site to appear in the other. It's just impossible to be consistent with just so much content, so many websites. So the moderators didn't know what to do. So they passed some videos. They also told how their mental health was taking a toll. Of course, but unfortunately, the company just did too little, too late. The company added mental health services and reported some videos to the authorities, but it started doing so only after hundreds of thousands of videos had already made it to the site. In this very same situation, underage girls found their images and videos on the website. In 2020, a story broke that 2 girls aged 15 and 14 were filmed without consent, and then they ended up, of course, in Pornhub. After desperate attempts to take the video down, Pornhub only obliged when one of the girls impersonated a lawyer. Still, her images and her videos had already navigated this untraceable sea of pornography that Pornhub and its branch companies are. After this column came out, other reports came of underage women whose videos appeared on the site as well. Others had the women drunk or drugged. After this, more details about the relaxed moderation rules started coming out to light. So hear this. At one point, the moderation team for MindGeek only had 10 employees. Orders were that they should take immediate action only if the person was under 12 years old. Moderators were less likely to ask for verification or even take down the video if the performers were 15 or 16 years old. And by the way, verification that they use in this consists of uploading a picture of themselves with an ID and their username. That's it. There's no more background check. The media outcry led Pornhub to take action and then remove videos involving sex, trafficking, rape, or non-consent. And here's where the numbers are shocking.
They removed content, but removed content popped up again and again
and no one really cared.
Their library went from 13.5 million videos to under 3 million in a matter of days. So it was possible. Pornhub knew how to do it, but they just didn't care until word got out and pressure started building. Immediately afterwards, major companies just dropped their partnerships or sponsorships from Pornhub, so that MasterCard and Visa and Discover, they all terminated possible use. Women also took action, as there are many lawsuits worth millions of dollars in the works, but the problem is more significant than that. Pornhub is the epitome of this human dichotomy. Its founders and executives donate to charity, including Canada's UNICEF programs. All the while, the company continues to operate in this shroud of secrecy. Try to understand MindGeek, and you will find yourself knee-deep in a complex web of offshore companies on financial fraud watch lists. Even MindGeek's owner had been a mystery for years. The company's biggest owner is Bernard Vengemar, but there's little trace of him on Google, and that is saying something. He owns a series of subsidiaries that have lent money to MindGeek for generous monthly payments. But these people are only part of the problem. The real problem is the people who consume this content. And that's why we are pretty sure that just Pornhub will continue to exist.